All right, so for today's continuing version of the Deli vid match, we're going to be looking at, I don't know what game number this is. I'm recording this a bit after it happened, and I've recorded some of the other games in the match before this. The match does not end today, is worth saying. Um, but let's look at this game. So Deli clearly started with 2 8 8 5 and 3. We're going to be skipping around the video. I recorded the video of it, but no audio. So Deli started with 2 8 8 5 and 3. And what is he trying to do with that move? He does not have a recapture, but he is saying he controls Vid's captures. So you'll notice Vid's ways to take that 5 are 2 8 8 3, which can be comboed by 1 8 8 4 or 7 8 4 1. Choices are always good. Or 7 7 4 4, which can be comboed by nothing. But it does get maybe a pretty useful card out of Vid's hand. Vid is really lacking up and to the right, which is probably what drew Deli to start there. And Deli could, if nothing else, well, 8s down and 1 are covered, which is why it's so important that 7 8 4 1 has the combo in 1 as well as 1 8 8 4, because 6 2 8 4 is doing work. So maybe 7 4 4 7 and 2 would have been a reasonable idea for Vid. We should check if Deli has some big combo setup going in 4 against that. I don't immediately see it. But maybe 5 7 8 2 and 4. Does set up 5, which is the more important square to set up because 1 has inherent value. I think it might be a little clumsy. I'm not sure. But you can see the sort of general idea of Deli's starter is this is a hard card for you to interact with. And Vid, who also did this in another game, which may or may not have happened yet, but I think already has, replies next to it, blocking the strong side. And this makes me think about face theory, which is a long ago concept I was talking about, but I think is a pretty interesting concept of kind of how many faces of a card do you control? And this leads to some pretty obvious things, right? If you have 2 but don't have 6, you might look for 9 because that can set up something in 6. You might look for 5 because that can set up something in 6, right? We look to be able to attack cards in ways we don't currently have. Or at least some of our styles are to do that. But another way you can get rid of a face of a card that you can't deal with is simply to say, okay, 6 is a dead square for me in terms of capturing, so I'm just going to use it for other purposes. I'm going to use it to create challenges for my opponent. I'm going to go in 6 and say, I don't think you have great plays in 2 either. This is safe to 9, so if you go 5, then 5 is a concession anyway, and if you go 9, you can't be capturing it. If you do go 5, I do always have 7 7 4 4 and 2 then, but I might have some other tool. Note Vid does not have a capture himself from 9, but sort of a bunch of the Alva games have shown this. When you play a next to move that is safe to 9 and weak to 5, because 5 is inherently a somewhat costly spot to go in these structures, only like Tezuka has made it work in games I have on record. And Tezuka has also failed to make it work in games I have on record. Not to say he does it consistently, because it's really hard to do. Because it gives your opponent 2 with the first lock-in of the game, and it just also gives your opponent first access at so many diagonal ways to pressure that card in 5. So it is a costly play that has some upside, but has some cost with it too. So Vialva has really been a specialist in doing this, playing next to with high number facing the far corner. Yeah, so the question is, does Deli have a comfortable way to play in 2? And I think basically Vid's argument is not all that complicated. It's anything you put in 2, I can at least strongly consider going like 2 8 8 3 and 1. That depending what you put in 2 has some combo potential. 4 8 4 7 is comboed by 7 7 4 4, so your only uncomboable cards are 5 7 8 2, which I would love to see there, because then when I take it from 1, 1 and 2 are safe. Or 7 8 4 1, which is maybe your best card for the rest of the game. And so getting these out of your hand has good value. Both players really playing in this opening, Deli with his move in 3 and Vid with his move in 6, saying, I am trying to get certain cards out of your hand and attack them. Let's see what happened next. All right, Deli goes 9. And I often find if you're kind of uncomfortable in these structures, this can be the way to go. There's a lot of weakish numbers facing out. Deli has kept a lot of power facing the action. And he's sort of saying, you have your choice of what you want to attack, but anything that's taken, I will have ample recaptures, and I should have enough to do against it. From Vid's perspective now, his captures really are very clumsy. 7841 is staring down the 2883 in Vid's hand. If it ever lands in 2 or 8, Deli at least can strongly consider comboing it immediately. So 7744 is sort of your, this is my comfortable capture, but as soon as it's out of your hand, you stop threatening further captures. You'd really like to find something to do with your cards that don't have play. And I think that's a good, like, general principle. If a card is good, but gonna be good continuing forward, and another card is bad and maybe gonna be even worse continuing forward, trying to find anything the bad card can do while the good card can retain its value is a reasonable investment in your future position, as it were. So like 6284 and 3458 maybe don't belong in his hand, so maybe considering one of those cards in 5 makes some sense. There is of course also the captures in 2 and 8. Doing this talking afterwards, I'm liking the idea of just talking about what I think the sort of thinking behind the moves are, rather than coming to evaluations. Which of course means we're not going to really be doing the actual thinking behind the moves, because a lot of the actual thinking is calculating. Triple Triad is of course a very calculation heavy game. But sort of conceptual thinking has a lot of value too, and that's what I'm going to try to do today. Let's see what happened next. All right, Vid does go 5. He says, my 3458 is not a useful card moving forward. I have a way to use it now. I still threaten captures in 2 and 8. I have double captures in both squares. I am doing perfectly reasonable things with my cards, and I have reasonable cards for the remaining game. Now, one thing I notice is Vid has almost no left now. And so this move slightly draws me, from Deli's point of view, to going in 4 and saying, I'm just going to set up with sweepers. I'm not sure exactly which card I want to put in 4. That seems like an open question. But any of the cards sweep to the right. So let's say you play like 4, 8, 4, 7, and 4. I'm not sure that's right. Maybe you want to be weak to 5 because you do have a potential combo in 8. But something like that, and just say my remaining 2 cards sweep. I don't think you can lose this position after a move like that. But I'm not sure it's a great winning try. We can also play on the diagonals here. I don't see obvious incentive to do so. But I'm sort of looking away from 2 and 8, which are the normal squares, but I think either of 2 or 8, Vid should probably be able to play 7, 7, 4, 4 in the other one. And I don't think our up-down sweepers, as Deli here, are that dominant. So without doing much calculation, it seems like if you go 2, they go 8, and you have an up-down game where you're not sweeping well enough to have a chance to win, like you're down 6-4 and you don't have very good sweepers, like you're probably not winning there. So I think looking for options in 1, 4, or 7 is very reasonable. 4 is the square jumping out at me, just because Deli's side-to-side sweeping seems like his biggest strength in the position, but yeah, I don't know. Let's see what he does. He goes 7. Okay, so this sets up 7, 8, 4, 1, and 4. It also sets up 5, 7, 2, 8, and 8. 5, 7, 8, 2, and 8. Yeah, a lot of combo-oriented play, but the combos have very little additional potential. Now, 7, 7, 4, 4, and 8, Vid's capture is sort of cut off because that accidentally flips 7, which means it's comboed back. His other capture in 8 is 2, 8, 8, 3, but that is weak to 5, so that is also combo susceptible. Okay, I'm starting to get Deli's idea. There's also just 6, 2, 8, 4, and 8. Like, 8 is valuable enough that you don't necessarily have to flip 9 to be happy with a move in 8. And so if you, for instance, go 6, 2, 8, 4, and 8, the score is currently 5, 5. It'll stay 5, 5. If Deli plays 7, 8, 4, 1 in 4, you can play 2, 8, 8, 3 sliding in 1. Not sliding, but just sneaking behind the opponent's card. Sliding means something different when I use it. Grabbing that card in 4, and that's going to be enough to hold a tie. So I'm going to guess 6, 2, 8, 4, and 8, but then it's going to turn out something more complicated was going on. No, we do see 6, 2, 8, 4, and 8. I didn't check all lines for Deli. Let's see what he did. He went 5, 7, 8, 2, and 2, but it's the same thing. 2, 8, 8, 3 is going to be able to sneak behind whatever is played and dodge being captured. If you go 2, 2, 8, 8, 3 goes in 1. If you go 4, 2, 8, 8, 3 goes in 1. And Vid gets himself a tie. All right, interesting game. I think the 3, 6, 9 sequence was very interesting because it was like it was a sack corner, right? It was a corner saying, I don't have the recapture, and you do have one capture I can't combo. Then the move in 6 was this, I'm getting rid of the square I have the least play. The move in 9 was, okay, but I have a lot of right power, and I'm going to keep the game going right. And I feel, as I saw with my starter, that your cards in the center column are often really well controlled by my cards in the left column. Vid going in 5 said, I'm perfectly comfortable holding an up-down game. If we want to fill up 2 and 8 and make it up-down, my hand's going to be fine against yours there. Deli said, no, I don't want that. I want combo potential. Went in 7, and Vid blocked the free square, which was sufficient to get the tie. All right, I have one more game here, but let's make that a second video. So we're going to end this one here.